first time I noticed the delay, it was a detail small enough to ignore and specific enough to haunt my morning. A half-beat lag in the bathroom mirror when I tested a tired smile after a night of boxes and bad pizza. I lifted the corners of my mouth to make sure I still looked human after the move, and the face looking back met me a blink behind. Not a full second, just enough to feel like a person on the other end of a slow video call. I scrunched my nose, checked the light, stepped closer. The glass was the flimsy renter kind, glued to the wall with adhesive pads, the silver backing already showing spots along the bottom edge. I told myself cheap mirrors bend your sense of timing. I brushed my teeth and felt better with toothpaste foam hiding my expression, and then, because people like to test the things they do not want to believe, I smiled again. Late. Again, like the face needed a cue. I laughed at myself and at the mirror, and the laugh sounded normal in the tile echo, but the reflection's laugh opened a fraction later like an understudy missing his entrance. The clock on my phone said I was late for work, and the elevators in my building insist on making you pay for that with long waits, so I forgot about it until lunch when a coworker joked about how we all smile for the client even when our souls are on fire and everyone flashed their best teeth. I raised my eyebrows and smiled in the cafeteria window at the same time just to prove my paranoia wrong, and the man in the glass reacted on time. By the afternoon, the bathroom incident felt like a weird trick of light, and I decided sleep would make my face pull itself together. I began noticing it at home only, mornings and nights, like the apartment had its own lag. Turning my head did not show it. Blinking did not show it. Only that small transactional smile you give your own face to make sure you still recognize it. By the fourth day, the delay felt like a quarter note in a song that drives you insane because the band keeps missing the beat. I told my sister on the phone, and she said to stop watching myself and go meet actual humans, and then asked if the place had lead pipes, because our family expresses love by being rude about infrastructure. That night, I tried the hallway mirror, the bedroom closet mirror, even the reflection off the black TV screen with the room light behind me, and every surface in the apartment gave me that late returning lift. I set my phone on the sink, started the video in selfie mode, and tested. The phone grinned back immediately. I replayed the clip frame by frame on the couch and saw my mouth and my phone twin open in perfect sync. When I pointed the phone at the bathroom mirror and smiled through the screen at the mirrored version, the stutter returned on the glass, while the screen kept pace with me. I wanted it to be an optical thing about distance and angles and cheap adhesives. I drove to a thrift shop 2 neighborhoods over that stays open late and bought a '99 pocket mirror and a larger beveled one that some hotel must have thrown out. I propped the hotel mirror against the bedroom wall with old towels and stood in the yellowish light. Smile. Late. I turned on every lamp to erase shadows. Smile. Late. I took both mirrors into the hallway, stood under the bright ceiling fixture with the cheap plastic cover, and tried again. Smile. Late. I put the pocket mirror a foot from my face and tried a grin too big to misread. Late by less than a second, but late with the kind of confidence that made me feel like I had seeded the rhythm of my own jaw. It is easy to say this out loud now because the line of panic is clean in hindsight. At the time, I did not tell anyone because it sounded like a vanity problem, and I did not want the sort of attention that ends with you being the fun story at a dinner where you are not invited. I slept badly and dreamed my jaw was wired shut. In the morning, I put my palm against the bathroom mirror to feel the old myth about how a gap between finger and reflection means two-way glass, and the cold came through slow and honest, and my finger touched its twin perfectly. I started experimenting because work had trained me to abuse spreadsheets until they confess, and I am worse to myself than I am to numbers. I set a metronome app to 60 beats and watched my reflection through the entire minute. Nods were in sync, eyebrows tracked, blinked together. When I smiled on every fourth beat, the reflection smiled on the half beat after mine, like I was on one, and it was on, and I changed the metronome to 75 and then to 45. The lag stayed constant in time, not in beats, a predictable fraction of a second that did not care how I tried to structure it. I set my phone to record me and the mirror side by side and clapped so I would have a sound spike for sync and smiled. On the video back on the couch, the claps lined up perfectly with the reflection of my hands, but the smile in the glass came late while the one in my actual face and the one on the phone matched. Watching yourself smile twice in a row at once is worse than watching yourself cry. At night, I dreamed I stood in a line of 1,000 me's and only mine forgot a cue. 3 weeks in, the delay changed from a clock problem to a personality. I started to notice minor differences in how the mouth in the mirror shaped vowels when I spoke. At first, I chalked it up to paranoia about my own lips. One Sunday shaving, I nicked a spot on my jaw that had earned its nick with a cowardly dip in the skin and watched blood rise in the tiny shallow cut. The mirror showed the red after the usual lag. The cut stopped in my face before it stopped in the glass. When I felt ready to be truly stupid, I risked a bigger test. I kept my face still and lifted only one corner of my mouth to a crooked half grin, the kind you use in a meeting to signal that you understood the joke but are not sure it was funny. The reflection gave me back the same crooked grin after the delay, and then, while I held mine, it opened more, a fuller smile that showed an extra tooth. Nothing monstrous, nothing cinematic, just a choice different from mine. I dropped my smile and my reflection dropped his half a beat later and kept a hint of it for a fraction longer as if to spite me. I touched the mirror hard enough to make my fingertip flat and watched the other fingertip press late and light. I wanted to puke and laugh and cry like someone who has been shown a trick without preparation. After that day, the lag changed size. Sometimes it shrank so small I had to watch myself very closely to catch it. Sometimes it stretched to nearly a second, and during those long delays, it was hard not to fill the space with dread. The face used the extra time to think. You would think I would tell someone at this point, or break mirrors, or move. I did none of those things. Not because I am brave, but because I am stubborn and broke, and the apartment was the nicest I could afford. I stopped smiling at work because I did not want to practice for the face in the glass. Jenna asked whether I was okay, and I said fine with the kind of tone that ends questions. At night, I covered the bedroom mirror with a towel and put the hotel mirror back in the closet. The bathroom mirror remained, because taking a shower in a room without a mirror felt like living in a bunker. On a cold Thursday, when the dryer in the basement rattled like a train, I found a thin paper tag stapled under the bathroom mirror's bottom edge, the kind of thing nobody reads unless they are already doomed to detail. The tag had a company name I did not recognize, and a year, 1978, and a serial number. That night, I sat at the table with my laptop and fell into old newspaper archives because puzzles offer the cruel comfort of being solvable. There was a story from that year about a downtown antique shop fire 3 blocks from my building, and a tiny line about smoke damage to a shipment of silvered glass rescued from a closing manufacturer. The article quoted a manager about chemical treatments, delays, artifacts, words that sound like warnings if you are looking for them. I imagined my landlord buying whatever came cheap from whomever offered it. I imagined a generation of tenants meeting themselves a heartbeat late and never telling anyone. The next change was worse because it did not hide behind math. My reflection began smiling without me. The first time was in the early morning when I was at my lowest and grumpiest. I brushed my teeth with old resentment and spat like a man claiming a little territory and looked up to check for toothpaste foaming on my lip like a child. The mouth in the glass lifted itself into a small, almost smile aimed at my chin. I held still. I breathed twice. The smile in the mirror grew enough to show me a hint of dimple I do not boast about, because my dimples are for photographs and luck, and the person in the glass knew that. I kept my face slack and walked out of the room without breaking eye contact. In the doorway, I turned out the light. The mirror went dark. The smile had arrived early. There is an old trick about writing on fogged glass to leave messages that reappear next time it steams. I did not think about that trick until it performed itself. After a shower, the mirror fog cleared like a curtain lifting. The words appeared in wet tracking lines in backward script no water pattern should make. Keep up. I wiped it with a towel that smelled like the last tenant and swore and felt stupid like a child in a haunted house. And the next day after a shower, a different line came through the fog. Give me head start. I started indulging in the kind of magical rules you make to keep yourself from admitting you have no rules. Do not smile at night. Do not make jokes near glass. Do not look yourself in the eye. The reflection hated that last rule and made up for my lack of eye contact by finding my eyes with a tilt of its own. I finally managed to get Jenna to come over without telling her the reason, and then made the mistake of telling her the reason, and then the right choice of inviting her to test it herself. People do not like watching someone else lose quietly. She stood at the bathroom sink in her too big denim jacket and lifted a polite smile to prove my boring story wrong and achieved nothing extraordinary. Her face reacted with her. She met her own timing perfectly. I felt cheap and sick and tried to laugh it off, and she left angry at herself for not seeing what I saw and angry at me for wanting her to. The face in the glass waited until her footsteps had faded completely and then gave me a slow, late grin in the dark bathroom with the light off, outlined by the small spill from the hallway like a person you meet in a doorway who already knows your name. I took the mirror down and set it on the tub and stared at the 6 dots of adhesive pads left on the wall like scars of belief. I should have broken it. I thought of all the reflective things in a home, the stove, the window at night, a phone gone to standby, a soup spoon, and knew it would not matter. At some point I got the idea that I should beat him to it. The idea felt like victory, and arrived with the stupid optimism failures wear to the party. I sat at the desk with the cheap hotel mirror propped against a stack of books and positioned my face halfway turned. I breathed and counted, and then smiled quick without warning, trying to surprise my own image. The face in the glass reacted almost with me, and this time the late part was my confusion. On the 6th attempt, I managed to start a smile so fast it hurt the corners of my mouth, and the reflection missed by longer than usual. And then, disastrously, corrected by overshooting into a grin that was too wide for the moment. The eyes in the glass did not wide match. They stayed tired like mine. The misaligned grin did not look funny. It looked wrong in a way that made my stomach pull back. I stopped playing the game. The reflection's grin lingered after mine left, and then softened, and then shaped itself into something like sympathy. I wish I could tell you I left the room and called my sister and told the truth. I did what people do when they are afraid they will be called crazy. I tried to fix it alone. The phone captured nothing new because the phone is an obedient little machine that thinks in frames. I considered talking to a doctor and realized the only doctor I would see was a sleep specialist because all of this rung with midnight. I bought blackout curtains and slept one night without mirrors and woke in the kind of quiet that hurts. The face in the black TV screen smiled when I brushed my teeth. I needed to know how far it would go and learned the answer the way people learn the shape of a cliff by falling against it. The lag switched direction for the first time. It was a Tuesday, and the building smelled like sawdust from a contractor making a doorway 2 floors down. I went to the bathroom after a long call to splash water on my face and pretend that helps, and the mirror was neutral and blank and on time until I tested with my morning smile like a lab rat who knows the maze by rote. The smile in the glass arrived early. It started before my mouth did by a fraction small enough to deny and big enough not to. My mouth followed it like a reflex. The terror of that moment was not theatrical. It was quiet and bright and careful, the way you feel when you realize your body does things you have not authorized. I tried to keep my face still, and the face in the glass convinced my muscles to lift a millimeter, and my mouth obeyed. I backed away and talked nonsense at my own reflection to fill the air with something not muscle. The reflection kept pace, and then, despite me, smiled again. First, tiny, testing, a child putting a toe in pool water. I slapped the light off and stood in the dark until the lines of my face faded and returned, and faded again. The feeling that someone else was happy with my face stayed. This is the part where people usually break things. I did not. I did something worse. I stared. If you stare at your own face long enough, you will see it shift even if nothing supernatural has taken hold. The human brain hates stillness and will invent movement to feed itself. I fed it. I stood at the bedroom closet mirror with the sunset behind me, turning the room into a movie, and I stared at my eyes. The reflection's eyes seemed brighter than mine. I tried to surprise him with the tiniest upward lift of lip, and he anticipated it, and I met him, and we matched, and the match felt like reconciliation in a stupid movie. I let my mouth open. He opened. We held still. Then he lifted further, a fraction, and my cheek eased to join him like the kind of person who laughs a half second later to be polite. The game had ended, and the rule had changed. He was learning to lead. The research had to become older than articles and newer than doctors. I went down into the basement storage where the landlord keeps abandoned things tenants never fought for, dodged 2 bicycles and a wooden sled, and found a broken Victorian dresser mirror against the wall with a fragment of silvered glass still clinging to a warped frame. A paper label on the back had the same company name as my foam-stuck bathroom piece. I pried at the backing and found a book page used as a shim under the glass, brittle, brown, and furious at time. The page was from a manual on silvering that used the kind of language men used when they wanted to sound like priests while doing chemistry. It warned in small print about delayed returns if the silver did not cure right, and about phenomena observed during low-light emulsion tests, most notable a tendency for the image to retain a previous frame which will resolve in time, and cautioned against human inspection of long duration. The manual assumed you would be silvering picture plates, not grooming before work. The idea that glass could hold onto the last face a fraction longer than it should explained something and begged you to keep staring so you got the rest of the answer. The manual said nothing about the glass learning to want, and everything I had seen told me this glass wanted my side to stop being the one that delays. I set a rule for myself that is stupid in the way that keeps people alive. Do not smile first. If your face wants to, let the desire burn off like fog and watch the glass. If it lifts before you, leave. If it waits, it only waits because it knows you deserve a break and wants you to love it again. I stopped shaving in the bathroom, switched to the little plastic mirror by the kitchen sink in full sun, cut my face twice and let the blood be honest. The TV stayed off and my phone went in a drawer and my work suffered because I became the man who looks at his coworkers' eyes as if expecting them to be late to their own jokes. Jenna broke the truce and came back angry enough to be helpful. She took my hand and made me sit on the couch and said, "We are moving you." And I said, "I cannot afford a new place." And she said, "Then I will move you to my couch until you can." And I said, "The glass will follow. Not the real glass, the idea." And she did not laugh. She stood, walked into the bathroom with the small hotel mirror I had hidden, and held it up to my face at arm's length without letting me look. A trick I would have respected if my dread had any room left for respect. She said, "Tell me a story without mirrors." I told her about a vacation from 5 years ago when we fell into a lake and lost our phones and discovered we remembered nothing without pictures. She listened until my voice got tired, and then she lowered the mirror without warning and my face fell into it, and the face in it lifted a half beat early, and I yanked my head away hard enough to hurt my neck, and she swore and hugged me and said, "I believe you," in a voice I will owe her for always. We tried a ceremony because rituals are how you tell a story your body can act. We took the cheap mirrors out to the alley, wrapped them in old towels like bodies, and set them gently into the dumpster because smashing them felt cheap and theatrical, and because 7 years of bad luck had been on me long enough. The bathroom wall looked wrong without the rectangle. The closet doors with their descending silver panels looked like elevator doors to a floor we could not visit. I hung a curtain across the bedroom closet like a dorm kid and pretended it was a design choice. The first night without glass was better. The second night, my phone black screen reflected a ghostly face in the kitchen, and the face smiled first. The third night, the window over the sink showed my outline in the city night, and the outline lifted its shoulders in a small laugh that my shoulders accepted like a favor. I do not know how to end the story in a way that makes you feel safe. The glass has not stopped, and neither have I. I still live in the apartment because moving would be a different story with the same third act. I keep a notebook with times I caught it leading because records make people suffer less than uncounted fear. I sleep with the bedroom door open because the living room window makes a better moon rectangle on the floor, and I've learned the shapes of shadows the way a parent learns the noises of a child. Some nights the reflection is respectful and waits and goes late, and I give myself an unearned gold star. Some nights it smiles early, and I train my face to ignore it like a cat begging at the wrong time. One night last week, the glass in the closet lifted into a full smile while I was still deciding who to be that day, and my mouth decided faster than I had planned and matched it, and in that instant, something shifted. Not in the room, but in me. As if my timing had fallen forward into the glass and continued, and the body in the doorway was the one delayed. I stood there like a person waiting for a song to finish. He smiled again. I followed. He stopped. I stopped. He lifted his hand slowly toward the surface and I lifted mine, and when they met, the cold came late to my palm by a beat that did not belong to physics. And the part of me that cares about rules understood in a no-language way that I had given more than one smile too many to something that had asked politely for so long, I had forgotten to say no. If you listen closely to the way people talk, you will hear the catch in the throat when someone mentions their own face. We all feel we have a deal with the mirror. Do not let it convince you that a handshake with time is a fair trade for being seen. If you test your reflection tonight and the smile comes late, stop. If it comes early, leave. Keep your mouth neutral and let the desire pass. Your face is not a gift for the first bidder. If your reflection waits and then smiles anyway, always half a beat behind, and you feel warm about that, congratulations. You are still on this side, and hope is one of the few useful lies we can afford. If it smiles before you and urges you on and you follow, I hope you have a friend who will turn your face away when you forget how to do it yourself. On some mornings, I think the person in my closet has a long day at my job and answers my emails and smiles on time for the clients. On some nights, I think I am the one who sits in the dark and learns to be happy with other people's timing. When I stand in the kitchen window after midnight and the city renders me as a soft shape among lights, and the shape lifts its mouth a second before mine, I look away and tell myself stories without mirrors until my face learns to belong to me again. If you see me in glass one day and my smile is wrong, be kind and do not return it.